Hello guys, welcome back to our anime moment. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of Martial Universe Season 10 Part 69 based on novel. So let's start. A sharp glint flashed across Lindong's eyes before he suddenly extended his hand. Immediately, thunder clouds came from all directions and gathered in the sky above him. After which, a rumbling sound appeared, before a tens of thousands of feet large lightning dragon came whistling forward. Finally, it directly agglomerated within Lindong's palm. Lightning arcs danced as that lightning dragon shrunk rapidly. A moment later, a huge silver lightning bow appeared in Lindong's hand. With a cold expression on his face, Lindong stared at the seventh Seat King, who was standing in the sky. Then, he used one of his hands to slowly draw the lightning bow until it creaked and formed a full arc. The instant the bow was stretched to its limits, deep black light rapidly gathered before they transformed into a black long arrow. Black light was flowing on the tip of that black long arrow. In fact, it appeared as though there were tiny black holes at that spot. Currently, the bow was drawn. Although the arrow was still resting on the bowstring, the entire space was showing signs of an imminent collapse. Standing in the sky, the seventh Seat King's pupils hardened when he saw Lindong's actions. Promptly, he chuckled, impressive. Using the Thunderbolt ancestral symbol as a bow and the devouring ancestral symbol as an arrow. To be able to obtain such mastery over the two great ancestral symbols, you have truly exceeded my expectations. However, the gap between us is extremely vast, and regardless of how many techniques you have, you cannot breach this gap. Is that so? A faint smile appeared on Lindong's face when he heard this. Inhaling a deep breath of air, a moment later, a chaotic light suddenly flashed before it landed on that black arrow. That light slowly flowed over the arrow and it did not give off any frightening ripples. However, the devouring power surging on the arrow began to shrink at this moment. After which, the surrounding space, which was pressured until it nearly collapsed, actually began to slowly recover. From the looks of it, it seemed as though the lightning bow and the black arrow in Lindong's hands have completely lost their powers. A faint pale color stealthily appeared on Lindong's face. After which, he smiled at the seventh Seat King. However, his smile was filled with endless ferocity. Lindong suddenly released his finger, which was hooked on the bowstring. Instantly, his eyes became extremely sharp. That black long arrow instantly disappeared the moment it left the bow. Meanwhile, standing in the sky, the seventh Seat King's pupils shrunk violently at this moment. In the next instant, ocean-like monstrous demonic aura swept out from within his body. Meanwhile, his Devil Emperor armor was covered by a black glow. As the demonic aura swept forth, he looked just like a devil god trampling the world. It was a frightening sight to behold. Suddenly, the space in front of the seventh Seat King was torn apart, before a black light shot towards him. However, even before he could react, it had already struck his body ruthlessly. Boom! The seventh Seat King's body trembled violently at this moment. Meanwhile, he staggered backwards before a sharp miserable cry was promptly emitted from his mouth. Instantly, the monstrous demonic aura that permeated the sky began to churn. That black light struck the seventh Seat King's chest and penetrated his Devil Emperor armor. After which, it penetrated his body and left through his back. Finally, without a drop in its momentum, it charged ruthlessly towards the demonic aura light barrier in the sky. Crack! The demonic aura light barrier formed by the 5 Yimo Kings failed to put up any resistance. Immediately, a crisp sound appeared before the demonic aura light barrier blew apart. The icy cool moonlight once again shone down on this place. The 5 Yimo Kings' faces turned pale. After which, all of them spat out a mouthful of black blood. With shock in their eyes, they stared at the figure standing in midair. Seventh Seat King? The 5 of them hurriedly cried out. Amidst the churning demonic aura, the seventh Seat King was staggering. Meanwhile, he was staring at the bloody hole on his chest in shock. Currently, black blood was flowing continuously out from it. It turns out a half a fist-sized bloody hole had actually appeared on his Devil Emperor armor. Moreover, there were even small cracks on the edges of that hole. His Devil Emperor armor was actually broken. How is this possible? The seventh seat king used his hand to touch the black blood flowing out from his wound, before he muttered to himself. Suddenly, his eyes turned furious before he cried out sternly, "How is this possible?" The monstrous demonic aura behind him descended into chaos. Moreover, a pale color flashed across his face. Clearly, he was seriously injured by that arrow. Standing below him, with no emotions on his face, Lindong stared at the raging seventh seat king. His hand, which drew the bow previously, was now covered with blood. Meanwhile, that hand was also tremblingly gently. Clearly, that previous attack had consumed all of his strength. "It seems like your broken armor isn't as powerful as you imagined," Lindong mocked. "You?" The seventh seat king's expression became distorted. He was just about to attack in anger when he saw that Lindong had raised his lightning bow and pointed it at him once again. Moreover, there seemed to be a black long arrow slowly forming on it. The seventh seat king shuddered when he saw that black long arrow again. After all, he did not understand why Lindong's attacks became so powerful all of a sudden. Previously, Lindong was merely able to leave a small crack on his Devil Emperor armor even after using the Eye of the Ancestral symbol. However, Lindong was now able to penetrate both his Devil Emperor armor and his body, and he even destroyed the demonic aura light barrier in the sky. With his current strength, how was it possible for Lindong to unleash such a powerful attack? Fresh blood continuously flowed from the seventh seat king's chest. His eyes were gloomy as he waved his hand. Immediately, the demonic aura sea gushed over before they actually wrapped around him and concealed his body. "Lindong, you should stop putting up a show in front of me. Though that previous attack was extremely powerful, I don't believe that you can use it continuously. Therefore, regardless of what happens, I will definitely be taking your life today." Nestled within the sea of demonic aura, the seventh seat king's dark and sinister voice spread in all directions. As such, Lindong was unable to pinpoint his location. Clearly, this fellow was extremely intelligent. After he suffered previously, he no longer dared to expose his body. Lindong remained emotionless. Instead, he merely tightened the grip over his lightning bow. "5 kings, attack together with me and kill this brat." Another sharp cry was emitted from within the demonic sea. In order to kill Lindong, it seemed like the seventh seat king had no choice but to disregard his status and join forces with the 5 Yimo kings. Ling Qingzhu arrived at Lindong's side after hearing those words. With a long sword in her hand, she used her icy cold eyes to stare at the churning demonic sea in the sky. Lindong waved his sleeve, before his sky-devouring corpse appeared in a flash. Meanwhile, his eyes were flickering rapidly. The seventh seat king was right indeed. That previous attack was as exhausting as the Eye of the Ancestral symbol. Initially, he thought that he could use that attack to kill the seventh seat king. However, he had still underestimated how sturdy the Yimo were. Moreover, with his current strength, there was no way he could execute that attack continuously. All he could do was to rely on his sky-devouring corpse to buy some time. Once he recovered some of his strength, he would be able to activate the lighting bow and black arrow. At that time, regardless of how powerful the seventh seat king was, it was likely that he would sustain severe injuries. However, during this period of time whereby he was recuperating, he did not know whether Ling Qingzhu and his sky-devouring corpse were able to stop the seventh seat king and the 5 Yimo kings. "Kill them!" While he was thinking about this, explosive cries filled with murderous intent sounded from within the demonic sea. After which, 6 demonic aura light beams suddenly shot towards them. "You should rest first." Ling Qingzhu clenched her teeth when she saw that the seventh seat king and the rest were attacking them. Clearly, she knew about Lindong's current condition. Therefore, after she spoke, a faint light rushed onto the longsword in her hand. When Lindong saw this, he felt anxious immediately. Although he managed to hurt the seventh seat king, these Yimo had an extremely strong life force and they were still able to fight even with such injuries. Therefore, how could Ling Qingzhu possibly fight against them head-on with her current strength? "Humph! You Yimo, how dare you come to my darkness city and act as you please? Do you think that my darkness palace is a soft persimmon?" However, a furious roar was transmitted from afar just as Lindong was about to force himself to fight. After which, a streak of light flashed across the horizon, before the entire place darkened immediately. In the next instant, a delicate little figure hurried over together with two other figures. Finally, they appeared beside Lindong. They were actually Qingtan and the two Grand Elders from Darkness Palace. Qingtan. Lindong was startled when he saw these sudden reinforcements. After which, he secretly sighed in relief. "Big brother Lindong, are you all right?" When Qingtan saw that Lindong's hands were covered with blood, she asked anxiously. Then, she quickly said, "We searched the area within a 500 kilometers radius of the Darkness City, but we could not find you. Fortunately, an energy fluctuation was transmitted from this place previously and we came over immediately." Lindong shook his head. Then, he lifted his head and looked at the sky. Now that Qingtan and the rest have arrived, there was no longer a need for him to be overly fearful of the seventh Seat King. Standing in the sky, amidst the churning demonic sea, the seventh Seat King and the 5 other Yimo stopped. Then, they looked at Qingtan's group, which had hurried over, before their expressions darkened. Initially, they thought that they would be able to kill Lindong easily. However, reality did not play out according to their expectations. Not only were they unable to kill the latter, but the seventh Seat King was also severely wounded by the latter. "Seventh Seat King, what should we do?" The 5 Yimo kings looked at the seventh Seat King before they softly asked. With a brutal glint glimmering within his eyes, the seventh Seat King held his chest before a pale expression flashed across his face. Then, he commanded in a menacing voice, "Since they are here, let's kill them as well. How can a bunch of ants possibly force us to retreat? Dream on." Understood. When they realized that the seventh Seat King's voice was filled with murderous intent surfaced within the eyes of the 5 Yimo kings. Promptly, demonic aura surged as they prepared to attack in an attempt to eliminate everyone below. Standing below them, Qingtan released a cold snort when she saw this. Then, she clenched her small hand before her darkness-sent scythe appeared. After which, a glow flashed across her scythe before she summoned the scythe spirit. Standing beside her, the 2 Grand Elders had a grave expression on their faces. Meanwhile, they were circulating the Yuan power within their bodies as they steeled themselves to attack. As the eyes of both parties slowly turned cold, an earth-shaking battle was clearly about to occur. Bang! However, just when that tensed atmosphere reached its peak, an extremely loud thunder suddenly resounded through the place. Immediately, everyone present was startled. Then, they hurriedly lifted their heads and looked afar. At the edge of their sight, it was possible to see the darkened sky suddenly turning bright. Meanwhile, a world of thunder began to spread at a frightening rate. In the middle of that thunder world, stood a tall and muscular figure. He was stepping on a thunderbolt as he streaked across the sky. Meanwhile, a frightening aura, that could not be described with words, permeated the sky. Fear finally appeared on the seventh Seat King's gloomy face when he saw that figure, who was riding on a thunderbolt. Immediately, he cried out involuntarily. "Thunderbolt Master? Thunderbolt Master?" Everyone present was taken aback when these 2 words escaped the mouth of the seventh Seat King. After which, their eyes peered into the distance in a startled manner where a lightning world was rumbling towards them. A well-built figure towered within the lightning-filled sky. The thunderbolt under his feet leaped forward, traveling over 100,000 feet in an instant. Lindong was also a little shocked as he looked at the figure atop the thunderbolts. Was this person the Thunderbolt Master of the 8 ancient masters mentioned by the Flame Master? The figure was extremely quick. He was still at the edge of the sky when the thunder rumbled. However, lightning was already gathering in the sky above by the time the thunder faded, and a figure appeared before everyone's eyes. Lindong and the rest were now finally able to clearly view this figure. He was rather burly and seemed to be middle-aged. With a head full of silver hair, his appearance was a little rough around the edges. A pair of lightning pupils were present under his thick eyebrows. Those eyes were filled with coldness and violence. A thunderbolt tattoo was present on his bare arm. An ancient and berserk ripple faintly emanated from it, causing the surroundings to tremble slightly. Rumble. The lightning in the sky grew increasingly dense and concentrated as though silver eyes of his slowly focused on the seventh-seat king's group, while an indescribable pressure spread from him. I have been searching for you people all over the world. I never imagined that you would actually dare to show yourselves. He stared at the seventh-seat king as his low voice thundered across the area. Even the air seemed to shudder in response. Thunderbolt Master, you are really persistent. The seventh-seat king was grim as he looked at the Thunderbolt Master and said through gritted teeth. How can I compare to you people? The Thunderbolt Master said in a faint voice. His stern appearance gave one a cold and strict feeling. Since I have found you, why don't you tell me where those fellows are hiding? The Thunderbolt Master stared at the seventh-seat king and said in a deep voice. You really like you boast as much as you did back then. Are you planning on fighting our demon prison alone? If that is the case, why were all of you forced into a slumber back then? The seventh-seat king laughed coldly. At the very least, you aren't qualified to speak to me in such a manner. The Thunderbolt Master said in an indifferent manner. Soon after, a lightning glow flashed within his eyes and his large hand suddenly clenched. Endless lightning gathered at his palm, turning into 6 fist-sized lightning balls. Lightning arcs danced wildly over the lightning balls as a destructive ripple spread from them. He did not show any courtesy. With a wave of his hand, the 6 lightning balls disappeared. In the next moment, they had already shot out from the space behind the seventh-seat king's group. The seventh-seat king hurriedly turned around as monstrous demonic chi surged. A hand covered by the Devil Emperor armor threw a punch and ruthlessly smashed onto the lightning balls. Bang! Lightning glow spread wildly as a moan emerged from the seventh-seat king's throat. His body was sent flying 1,000 feet back and his arm had been charred black. It was likely that just this attack alone would have crippled one of his arms if not for the protection of the Devil Emperor armor. Although the seventh-seat king had blocked this attack, the other 5 Yimo kings did not possess the strength to do so. The lightning balls rushed at them and the demonic chi on their bodies crumbled almost instantly. Incomparably violent thunderbolt power erupted in front of them and the 5 of them emitted a miserable screech. After which, their bodies began to melt away at a frightening speed. Within a short period of time, 5 reincarnation stage experts were killed by the Thunderbolt Master in a single move. Lindong was slightly startled upon seeing this scene. The 2 Grand Elders from Darkness Palace were dumbstruck while their bodies trembled violently. Such strength had robbed them of the courage to even fight. You? The seventh-seat king gnashed his teeth in anger after seeing that the 5 Yimo kings had been killed by the Thunderbolt Master in the blink of an eye. Murderous desire erupted from the former's eyes. Will you tell me where those fellows are hiding now? Especially that fellow called Heaven-Seat King. Is he still unwilling to show himself after hiding for tens of thousands of years? The Thunderbolt Master's eyes were emotionless as he said in a faint voice. Heaven-Seat King. Ridicule was revealed in the seventh-seat king's eyes when he heard this. Thunderbolt Master, you nearly died at his hands back then. Yet, you still dare to search for him? I think it would be better to invite the Ice Master out. It seems that you are unwilling to speak. The Thunderbolt Master shook his head and frightening desire to kill erupted within his lightning eyes. After which, he took a step forward. The seventh-seat king's pupils shrunk the moment the Thunderbolt Master took a step forward. Demonic chi exploded while his body turned into a flash of black lightning as he pulled back. You are far too slow. The space behind him was torn open just as his body pulled back and the Thunderbolt Master appeared in a ghost-like fashion. 5 fingers were tightly grasped as lightning danced wildly on his arm. After which, his punch heavily smashed onto the back of the seventh-seat king. Bang! Lightning shot in, and the body of the seventh-seat king turned into a black ray of light as it fell, directly flattening a mountain in the process. The Thunderbolt Master extended 2 fingers and pressed them onto the air. Frightening lightning spluttered out and viciously dashed towards the collapsed mountain. Soon after, the rubble was turned into dust. The figure within could not dodge in time and was blasted by the lightning. A mouthful of black blood was spat out and his body was smeared across the ground, creating a 100,000 feet deep scar. The seventh-seat king, who had forced Lindong into an extremely dangerous situation, had been utterly crushed. The seventh Seat King miserably pushed himself up from the ground. His eyes dripped with venom as he maliciously glared at the Thunderbolt Master. There were many dents on the Devil Emperor armor on his body. His strength was equivalent to someone who had experienced 2 reincarnation tribulations. The Thunderbolt Master, however, was a peak-level expert who had already experienced 3 reincarnation tribulations. Without the protection of the Devil Emperor armor, he would now be seriously injured. It has been so many years, yet you are still only able to rely on this tortoise shell of yours. The Thunderbolt Master looked at the ragged figure of the seventh Seat King and shook his head. This Devil Emperor armor might be strong, but it will not be able to protect your life if I wish to kill you. The seventh Seat King's expression was grave. With a cold snort, both of his hands suddenly formed a seal. Monstrous demonic chi swept out as his body distorted. In the next moment, he turned into a dozen figures that fled in every direction. Each one of these figures had the same aura, and even the demonic chi fluctuation from their bodies appeared to be exactly the same. It was clear that all of them were the real seventh Seat King and not mere illusions. The Thunderbolt Master merely watched the seventh Seat King display his technique in an unsympathetic manner. In the next moment, the former's body strangely disappeared. Boom! Thunder boomed from the distance the moment the Thunderbolt Master disappeared. Lindong lifted his eyes and saw lightning appearing in front of a black figure as though it had teleported. The figure was shattered with a single punch. In the next instant, the bolt of lightning had already appeared in front of another black figure. Bang bang bang. Lightning flashed as the Thunderbolt Master displayed an indescribably frightening speed. The dozen figures had barely made any headway before they were blasted apart. Bang! The final black figure was also struck by a punch. However, it did not explode into demonic chi. Instead, the figure flew backwards as black blood uncontrollably spurted out. It was obvious that this fellow's actual body had been forced out. Trying to escape in front of me. Have you become stupid? The Thunderbolt Master coldly looked at the exceptionally miserable seventh Seat King as heart-palpitating killing intent slowly rose in his lightning eyes. Since you are unwilling to speak, there is no purpose in your existence. I will just have to kill you to prevent the contamination of this world. The Thunderbolt Master clenched his hand and endless lightning converged in the sky. Finally, it turned into a 10,000 feet large lightning seal which gave off an incomparably berserk fluctuation. Boom! There was no hesitation once the lightning seal was formed. It was accompanied by a destructive power as it ruthlessly crushed the seventh Seat King, causing the land to crumble and instantly creating a deep abyss. The expression in the eyes of the seventh Seat King changed upon seeing this attack. Monstrous demonic chi surged as he forcefully resisted the lightning seal. However, his demonic chi grew increasingly weak and thin under the suppression of the lightning seal. The lightning seal moved nearer and nearer to the seventh Seat King. The latter tightly gritted his teeth as a fierce glint continued to flicker within his eyes. Boom! The lightning seal finally landed. However, just as it was about to crush the seventh Seat King, the space behind him was suddenly torn apart, forming a 10,000 feet crack in space. After which, a 10,000 feet large devil hand suddenly extended from the crack and forcibly blocked the lightning seal, before flinging it away. This unexpected turn of events caused Lindong's group to be startled. Their eyes drifted over and saw a black figure standing with his hands behind him on the 10,000 feet large devil hand. He, Thunderbolt Master, it has been so many years since we have met. Must you be so ruthless? The black figure on the devil hand smiled towards the Thunderbolt Master and said, Fifth Seat King? The Thunderbolt Master looked at the devil-like figure which had appeared. A ripple flitted across his lightning eyes as he replied, Someone decent has finally appeared. Thunderbolt Master, I know that you are formidable, but you will not be able to stop me if I want to save him. Therefore, there is no need to waste your strength. You can be reassured that there will ultimately be a battle between our devil prison and you ancient masters. The devil-like figure laughed softly. Soon after, his eyes looked towards Lindong and said, You are that Lindong, right? How extraordinary. It is unexpected that even old number 7 has failed. Consider yourself lucky this time. He waved his sleeve as his voice sounded. After which, demonic chi engulfed the seventh seat king and the space behind him once again cracked open. Humph! The Thunderbolt Master let out a cold snort when he saw this and threw a punch forward. The thunderbolts that filled the sky turned into 100,000 feet large lightning lion that pounced forth. It was accompanied by an incomparably wild and violent power as it charged towards the fifth seat king. Ha ha, you are as rude as ever. However, now is not the time for us to fight. Just you wait, Thunderbolt Master. This time, we Yimo will definitely turn the war from tens of thousands of years ago around. The fifth seat king waved his sleeve. An incomparably enormous devil lotus bloomed and blocked the lightning lion. After which, his body withdrew into the spatial crack. Soon after, the demonic chi scattered and finally completely disappeared from the area. The Thunderbolt Master looked at the spot where the fifth seat king had disappeared. With a flick of his finger, a tiny bolt of lightning penetrated the space and noiselessly disappeared. He finally turned around after doing this and stared at Lindong. A long while later, he finally said, "You are the Lindong whom the Flame Master mentioned? The current owner of the Thunderbolt ancestral symbol." Lindong was slightly startled when he heard the Thunderbolt Master's words. It was not strange for the latter to detect the Thunderbolt ancestral symbol in his body. However, from the latter's tone, it was obvious that the Thunderbolt Master had learnt about him from a conversation with the Flame Master. Although Lindong was unaware of how the Flame Master had described him, he still nodded. Soon after, he cupped his hands together towards the Thunderbolt Master and said, "Thank you for your aid, Thunderbolt Master." Although the seventh seat king would not have been able to do as he pleased if they were to fight it out, Lindong's group would be forced to pay a certain price. Hence, he had to thank the Thunderbolt Master for lending a hand. Killing the Yimo is my duty and responsibility. I have spent a long time searching for them. It is only because of you that I managed to obtain a clue today. Therefore, there is no need for you to thank me. The Thunderbolt Master shook his head. His voice was as loud as thunder. The Thunderbolt Master's eyes swept towards Lindong. The former's eyes appeared to be judging the latter. Finally, he nodded. "It is surprising that you are actually able to break the seventh seat king's Devil Emperor armor with your current strength. It seems that you are just as remarkable as the Flame Master described." His voice contained a rare trace of amazement. He had fought far too many times with the upper echelons of the Yimo, and was naturally well aware of just how strong the Devil Emperor armor was. It was the only reason why that seventh seat king had been able to endure for such a long time in his hands. Yet, Lindong was able to rely on his own power to break the Devil Emperor armor. Even the Thunderbolt Master could not help but be somewhat amazed. Lindong merely chuckled. In order to achieve such a result, that attack had gathered powers of the two ancestral symbol strength in his body and the mysterious power obtained from the zenith. It could be considered his strongest attack. Despite this, it had only been able to injure the seventh seat king. Killing him was still impossible. The Thunderbolt Master looked at Lindong. He suddenly hesitated for a moment, before he said, "Can I take a look at the Thunderbolt ancestral symbol?" His voice was a little softer than usual. The Thunderbolt ancestral symbol was a natural divine object, and he was the first owner of the Thunderbolt ancestral symbol. However, he was well aware that such a divine object would seek its own owner. Back then, he had cut off his connection with the Thunderbolt ancestral symbol when he fell into a deep slumber. Plus, its new owner was Lindong. Hence, even he did not have any right to retrieve it. Lindong smiled upon hearing the Thunderbolt Master's words. After which, he nodded and extended his hand. Lightning converged within it as an ancient lightning symbol slowly appeared. The Thunderbolt ancestral symbol flickered and drifted towards the Thunderbolt Master when it appeared. The latter's face was full of reminiscence as he extended his large hand and touched it. "It has been a long time, old partner." The Thunderbolt ancestral symbol emitted a buzzing sound. After which, a lightning arc swirled on the Thunderbolt Master's palm. The Thunderbolt ancestral symbol also possessed a spirit. Therefore, it also had some feelings towards its first owner. The Thunderbolt Master rubbed the Thunderbolt ancestral symbol. It was a long time later before he handed it back to Lindong and said, "You are the current owner of the Thunderbolt ancestral symbol and should be aware of some responsibilities that come with this status. I hope that you will not bring dishonor to its name." Lindong grasped the Thunderbolt ancestral symbol. Lightning flickered on his palm as he looked at the Thunderbolt Master. "Don't you want to take back the Thunderbolt ancestral symbol? Without the Thunderbolt ancestral symbol, there will ultimately be something missing in the name of the Thunderbolt Master, right?" The Thunderbolt Master shook his head and said, "The 8 ancient masters do indeed possess the greatest connection with the 8 ancestral symbols. However, from a certain point of view, we are merely allies. They have their own freedom and have the right to choose their new owners. If the Thunderbolt ancestral symbol is without an owner, I will naturally bring it away with me. However, it has already chosen a new owner for itself. Since this is the case, its choice is definitely the most suitable for it. The choice of the ancestral symbol is never wrong." The Thunderbolt Master smiled after saying this. There was some pride in his smile. "Moreover, you should not underestimate us. It is true that the ancestral symbols can further strengthen us. However, even without them, we are still powerful. Due to having accompanied them for such a long time, we have already assimilated their power." Lindong was stunned upon hearing this. "You don't understand." A mysterious expression slowly rose on the face of the Thunderbolt Master. He slowly extended his hand and clenched it. Lightning flashed and appeared. Within the lightning was an extremely familiar power. It was the power of the Thunderbolt ancestral symbol. Although we currently do not possess the ancestral symbols, we can be called human-shaped ancestral symbols. Therefore, even without the ancestral symbols, we still possess their power. However, we still require the ancestral symbols in order to unleash certain extremely powerful techniques. Amazement rose on Lindong's face. No wonder the Flame Master and Thunderbolt Master were not overly focused on the ancestral symbols after awakening. The power of the ancestral symbols had taken root and developed in their bodies. However, only those who have obtained the maximum mastery over the ancestral symbol will still possess its powers after cutting their connection to the ancestral symbol. Although the ancestral symbols have experienced many outstanding owners after us, it is extremely rare to find someone who has reached our level. The Thunderbolt Master looked at Lindong and said, "You might perhaps be able to reach that level in future. Moreover, there are 2 ancestral symbols in your body. It is impossible to tell just what kind of changes will occur when their power is assimilated." Lindong silently nodded. He was already rather proficient with regards to the ancestral symbols. However, perhaps because he was in possession of 2 great ancestral symbols, he was temporarily unable to reach the limits that the Thunderbolt Master and the others had reached. The Thunderbolt Master watched Lindong keep the Thunderbolt ancestral symbol in his body. He was quiet for a moment before he said, "The Flame Master has already spoken to me about the Ice Master." Lindong was stunned. Of course, the others should also be aware of this matter when they awaken. The corners of Lindong's lips twitched slightly. His peripheral vision glanced at Ling Qingzhu beside him. However, she merely quietly watched the distant mountain forest. It was as though she did not hear anything that had been said. We are also quite surprised that the situation had developed in such a manner. Originally, we believed that given little junior sister's character, it was likely that she will never have any feelings towards a certain man. The Thunderbolt Master's eyes were a little strange as he looked at Lindong. He had been dazed for a good part of the day when he first heard of this from the Flame Master. Clearly, he was unable to imagine that the cold 10,000-year ice like little junior sister would actually become like this one day. She is not her. Lindong sighed softly and said. The Thunderbolt Master smiled faintly. His eyes contained a deeper meaning in them as he stared at Lindong and said, "Perhaps, since little junior sister has spoken, we will not dwell on this matter too much for the time being. However, I have to warn you that she will ultimately have to return. This is because this world still needs her." Lindong deeply inhaled and slowly nodded. "I know. I will use my own methods to change this. You people will perhaps find it comical, but giving up is not part of my character." The Thunderbolt Master appeared to be aware that Lindong would answer in this matter. Hence, he did not say anything else. Where will you be heading to next? Lindong changed the topic and asked. Earlier, I planted a lightning seal on the 7th Seat King and I can roughly sense his position. I need to go and scout for a while. The fact that those fellows have hid for so many years has always made me uneasy. The Thunderbolt Master voiced his thoughts. Alone? Lindong was taken aback. Although the Thunderbolt Master was frighteningly strong, the Devil Prison was not ordinary either. An example was the 5th Seat King that had appeared previously. He was obviously a peak expert who had experienced 3 reincarnation tribulations, and there should be 4 other powerful existences with such strength above him. It was clearly a little too much for the Thunderbolt Master to deal with them. The strongest few fellows of Devil Prison also suffered extremely serious injuries back then. Currently, they should be doing their best to recover. Hence, Devil Prison will ultimately not dare to fight me head-on. Otherwise, they would not have continued to hide. The Thunderbolt Master said. The Thunderbolt Master smiled faintly after his words sounded. Moreover, even if I encounter some danger, even the strongest Heaven Seat King will not be able to stop me from leaving. His words contained some pride. As the Thunderbolt Master, his speed was outstanding amongst the 8 ancient masters. It was not easy to retain him. Heaven Seat King. Lindong glanced at the Thunderbolt Master. He had heard this name from the 7th Seat King earlier. He is the boss of Devil Prison and an extremely troublesome fellow. Back then, he was the strongest existence under the Yimo Emperor. I fought him back then, but was no match for him. The eyes of the Thunderbolt Master clearly hardened when this name was mentioned. However, that fellow was seriously injured after clashing with little junior sister. It is likely that he has yet to recover. Otherwise, only little junior sister will be able to handle him if he appears. At that time, he glanced at Lindong after saying this. His meaning was clear. Once the Heaven Seat King appeared, the Ice Master should also emerge. Perhaps, this was the remaining time they gave to Lindong. Lindong clenched his fist tightly. I should get going. Devil Prison has failed to deal with you this time, and will likely not dare to do anything for now. They will most probably remain quiet until the strongest few of Devil Prison completely recover. The Thunderbolt Master said. Lindong nodded, be careful. The Thunderbolt Master did things with great efficiency. After saying everything he wanted to, he ceased staying in this place. He waved towards Lindong's group and bright lightning appeared around him. After which, thunder rumbled as lightning flashed and his body vanished. Lindong looked at the spot where the Thunderbolt Master had vanished and sighed softly. It seemed that this world was becoming increasingly chaotic. It was impossible to tell just when the hidden Yimo would burst forth. When that time came, it was obvious that the Second World War would once again begin. This video will end here.